And welcome to Interesting to See, your daily sports podcast, news, narratives, takes, gambling. No, I don't have a clip to open with. It's Controversial Wednesday today, and the biggest controversy, Tom Brady. What you doing, bud? News broke yesterday. Tom Brady, this is the headline from popculture. Tom Brady delays Fox Sports job to pursue stand-up comedy, according to report. I swear to God, bro. If this is not some sort of promotional shit, we should send him to St. Helena. You know, where Napoleon was exiled? Let's get this. We just need a couple years, man. You can watch this on Spotify or YouTube, of course. It is Controversial Wednesday. News from yesterday. Do we want to get to some news? Sure. So Tom Brady is going to be a stand-up comedian. Cavinder Miller, the guy that spit on Drew Doughty in the NHL, he's been suspended for 3 games. Been following that story. That makes sense. Seems fair. Not too much, not too little. Patrick Kane has been traded to the New York Rangers, so he's teammates with Cavinder Miller. The Patriots coaches were instructed by someone not to be too hard on QB Mac Jones, but not because he's soft, because he's too hard on himself. I guess. I don't know. Weird. That's not the typical millennial thing, to be too hard on yourself. It's to be mad when people get mad at you. I would know. I am one of those. Other than that, not a lot of news. Some things happened. Not really. Nothing crazy happened. Okay, so Controversial Wednesday. We are going to start with the Cavinder twins. The Cavinder twins are 2 hot young women who are famous on the internet. They are basketball players for the University of Miami. It's all about the U. Now, I don't know their exact saga of how they got famous, but being an early adopter of TikTok, we talked about Livy, and I forget her last name, Olivia something, Olivia Dunn. She is famous. They're famous. There's 2 of the more famous TikTok accounts for young people. The NCAA has issued an NIL ruling, and the Cavinder twins are part of it at the University of Miami. This is according to a report from Sports Illustrated. A case involving Miami women's basketball players Haley and Hannah Cavinder reached negotiated resolution that resulted in a 3-game suspension for Hurricanes coach Katie Meyer. So they've responded on TikTok, obviously, by shitting on people. The investigation did not develop facts directly linking activities around name, image, and likeness to the prospect's recruitment or decision to enroll in the University of Miami. So they're trying to figure out if they were paid to go there. Now, the weird thing is, I think that I don't know if they got famous before they were in college. They may have been famous in high school. That's totally possible. The weird thing about this story in particular, and there's a good reporting by Sports Illustrated. It's a huge report. The interesting part about this to me is that if they were paid to go there, was Miami simply not making an attempt to hide that they were doing NIL correctly? Because NIL, of course, stands for name, image, and likeness, and it means that you own your name, image, and likeness. The NCAA is not allowed to prohibit you from profiting off of your existence in the United States. It's unconstitutional, a ruling that I agree with. And that's, college players are kind of getting paid through these weird agreements. The ruling is strange. People don't know what to make of it. It feels very much like these famous people have been singled out. I don't know. But we're going to pay attention to that. So that's the first thing I wanted to get to. The second thing I wanted to get to is Calvin Ridley. Remember Calvin Ridley was suspended last year for an entire year because he was caught betting on football. Now, everyone's like, yeah, but Deshaun Watson is like probably a sexual predator. We're only suspending him for 11 games. Calvin got suspended for the whole season. Yeah, the NFL cares more about money than women. Duh. Obviously. And the moral hazard, it's not that Calvin should not have been suspended for as long as he was suspended. It is that Deshaun should have been suspended for longer. So Calvin was suspended for a year. He has applied for reinstatement, but he has yet to earn reinstatement. Now, the moral hazard for allowing a player to gamble on their games is, of course, they could rig things. Now, sports gambling has put a lot of money into the ethos. There are people like me making content. I don't have any sponsors, but people have sponsors like teams like DraftKings. There are a bunch of weird sportsbook startups and daily fantasy and all this stuff. And what that means is that we're in a wild, wild west of regulation. Like, I am located in North Carolina. You cannot bet on sports except at one of the Native American reservations. People do, but it's illegal. in states where it's legal, regulations is going to start to get weird. When you see a bad call on internet on national TV in a big game, you'd be like, well, should we investigate this person? We know that this kind of shit is rampant in the NBA and has been. I don't know if it is now. I'm not alleging that, but it certainly has been over the years. Tim Donaghy knew all about that, so he rigged games and shaved points for years. And Kobe Bryant and people have confirmed that there was a conference final game years ago that was rigged to get to a Game 7. So this happens, but for a player to do it, they could kind of do it on their own. And I've long suspected that, man, if you were a quarterback on a really good team, I used, for example, Colt McCoy. I remember watching Colt McCoy play the University of Wyoming in 2009, and they were favored by like 37.5, and they ended up winning by 35. And I thought, man, if Colt McCoy had his shit together, he could have just made a fuck ton of money by just like kind of dicking around for the first quarter. How easy would that be on these weird small games that no one's paying attention to? Now, Calvin was really stupid. He made a huge parlay, and I think he bet on the Falcons, which is dumb. He has since been traded to the Jaguars, who are really going all in, and I think that they might make a real run at the Super Bowl this year. But it has yet to be overturned, and I don't know how they're going to enforce this. There are a couple thousand players in the NFL with contracts and practice squad guys and guys that are kind of waiting for the call. So there are a couple thousand dudes. Also, NFL employees are not allowed to do that. So, like, media members aren't allowed to gamble on sports. If you have your shit together, it seems like you could be pretty good at getting away with it. But what do I know? The NFL, speaking of the the Shield, there is a lawsuit that I'm going to be very careful with how I comment on this because I was on board here, not during this time, but yeah. A lawsuit alleges that NFL Films catalogs lewd shots of women at games in database. So this woman, and this is according to the Wall Street Journal. Well, it's not according to the Wall Street Journal. It's going to a lawsuit, and they're reporting it. A new lawsuit alleges that it also created something much different in its vast archive, a catalog of lewd shots of women's fans, cheerleaders at games. I got to be careful. The lawsuit, which is brought by a former temporary worker at NFL Films, which is in Mount Laurel, New Jersey, Victoria Russell. Her complaint alleges that the NFL Films has a database and timestamps of footage with cheerleaders' rear end, female fan bikini top, naughty camera work, close-up of cheerleaders' breasts, cleavage shot, endowed woman, random woman, cleavage shot. NFL spokesman Brian McCarthy said images are marked as sensitive to ensure they won't be used in future content, but they're not deleted, according to this lawsuit. I would never. Maybe I would. I don't know. Maybe a lawyer will call me. We'll see. Those frames are logged as sensitive, according to this. I'm reading the report. That's just what I'm going to do. Those frames are logged as sensitive so they can be removed from circulation, meaning they will not be accessible to employees whose job it is to locate footage for productions. Ms. Russell didn't have credentials for the logging system, nor did any aspect of responsibilities involve accessing footage. Oh, if she didn't have credentials to get into the database. So I have worked as an NFL Films logger, among other things, and I did have access to the database. If people don't have access to the database and they're on the database and they're alleging things, that's interesting. I don't think this is going to go anywhere. And they might actually have a case to be like, hey, you're not supposed to say that, and you said that you wouldn't say stuff about the inner workings of the company. Wow. So I'm going to pay attention to this. The NFL. So NFL Films, the way it works is the NFL headquarters, all the suits are in New York, and then most everybody else is in LA. But then they also have NFL Films, which is in Mount Laurel, New Jersey, outside of Philadelphia. And it is this immaculate film studio thing with millions of dollars of like old school film equipment and a big database, and they make these documentaries for the NFL. It's where all of the shit is warehoused. It's pretty amazing. But NFL Films sends between, 2 to 50 cameramen to every single NFL game, including mic'd up, behind the scenes, all those cool footage. Those are just dudes and women shooting the game. They bring it back and it's put into a database in case they want a shot of, say, Patrick Mahomes. They pull up Patrick Mahomes in the database and they look at whatever they want of Patrick Mahomes and they go through the footage and they're like, okay, let's use that shot for this. The lawsuit is alleging that in that database there's a whole section of just sexually attractive women. Which would be crazy because that would mean that NFL people are keeping it on purpose, which is bad. That would be bad. But if she doesn't have access to it, should not have had access to it, she's alleging this, That's going to be weird. I'm not sure that this is going to go anywhere. I'm not a lawyer, but they made it very clear to us when we were there what it's like to be sued by the NFL and not to talk about certain things and that kind of thing, including like on the mic like this. That's why I'm being careful, because they will see shit like this. So we got to pay attention to that, right? We have to watch that. I think it's entirely possible that this gets out of hand. Moving on. The National Football League has a doctor problem. The doctors in the NFL and other sports, it's not just the NFL, but the NFL is the worst one because there are so many injuries that would require most other sports to be like, yeah, you're not going to play on this, dude, because it's such a violent game. It's a contact sport, and they're not wearing enough pads and whatever. So we talked about Michael Thomas, quote tweeting the former Philadelphia Eagles captain receiving a $43 million settlement because of the doctors putting him back out onto the field when he should not have been on the field. But he's not the only one. Byron Jones did too. Here's Byron Jones's tweet. Much has changed in 8 years. Today, I can't run or jump because of my injury sustained playing this game. Do not take the pills they give you. Do not take the injections they give you. If you absolutely must, consult an outside doctor to learn the long-term implications. It was an honor and privilege to play in the NFL, but it came at a regrettable cost I did not foresee. In my opinion, no amount of professional success or financial gain is worth avoidable chronic pain and disabilities. Godspeed to the draft class of 2023. That's a cornerback for the Dolphins. He was at one point the best corner in the NFL. I think he played for the Cowboys before signing for the Dolphins. And I'll tell you that most doctors take their oath very seriously. The Hippocratic Oath says a lot of crazy stuff, but the one that they use now, essentially the sentence that they like is, first, do no harm, which means don't hurt your patient. Your job is to help your patient. Doctors that are employed by teams break the oath all the time, and I'm kind of curious why, and I've never really gotten to the bottom of why professional medical organizations aren't meaner to the doctors, because they do not treat the clients like patients. They treat them like animals compared to the way that other doctors treat their patients. So those NFL players are not patients to the doctors of the team. They just aren't. They're not patients. It's not a I kind of bet that there's no doctor-patient confidentiality. The doctors are paid by the teams, and they're not there to treat patients with injuries. They are there to give a stamp of approval from someone with a medical doctor degree. To say, look, a doctor said it's cool. But they're lying all the time. They have to be. Because how often, we saw this with Trent Williams in Washington where he demanded a trade. The reason he demanded a trade is he had a lump, and the team doctor said it was fine. It was cancer. So the union over the years has demanded the right to see a specialist. Now I think we're getting to a point of distrust where they're just going to be like, yeah, the team doctor is not going to be involved in my medical care. And I think that's going to happen soon because, $43 million for making a guy go back out there for a knee injury that ruined his career is also expensive for the team, and it's worth more than they're paying the doctor. So I think this is about to bubble over. And I think we're going to continue to get guys that retire and then go on podcasts and just fucking shit on the NFL. I think that's where we're at. You know what I mean? And I'm on board with that. It's not just in the NFL. There's been really, really ugly instances, especially in the English Premier League. There have been some ugliness. Baseball has particularly been bad. Hockey as well. Those are not doctors. If there's no doctor-patient confidentiality and they don't treat the players like patients, they're not doctors. They are a stamp. So I'm very much on board with the players demanding a third-party look at things. All right. Thursday's tomorrow. Man, I miss football. God damn it. All right, we're talking about the NFL Combine. They'll be running in their underwear tomorrow. I guess we'll preview it. I'll tell you when to watch it. I don't know. Let's just fast forward to April 1st, huh?